G'day guys, how's it going? It's Reese from Reese's Pieces here, and today I'm going to be talking to you about Bitcoin, what I think it's potentially going to do for the week. We'll recap what I thought it might do last week and what actually did play out. The other thing, guys, if you're not in the bullpen, please do come join us in there. It's a Discord community we've got. I'm pretty active in there. I like to post charts. I like to, talk to people in there. Last week I had a great post on FTT BTC, a nice descending wedge that played out really nicely. So it's a lot of fun. I would have quit trading. In fact, I did quit trading when I first picked it up because I had no one to talk to about it, no community. And so having that community there, I love it. It really does keep me engaged with trading. It's a great place. I learn from a lot of people in the community. Hopefully I help some people in the community. So if you're not there, I'll put the link in the description. Please do sign up. But what we'll do, we'll head to the charts and we'll get started. So here we are. This is the chart as we were looking at it last week. We were watching this big bearish engulfing form. Like I said, there was no trade that I was really looking to take because the only trade that I would have taken was a short off that supply zone, and I'd missed my chance to take it, so that was no good to anyone trying to actually make money, right? If we could trade backwards in the market, everyone would be multi-millionaires. Doesn't work that way. So what I thought was potentially going to happen was a bounce off this sort of symmetrical triangle, and then because the symmetrical triangle is a continuation pattern, and we'd had a big move down beforehand, it's got a higher probability of breaking to the downside. Not a guarantee, but a higher probability. So I was looking towards sort of this 41k level. Now what actually did play out was really good for the start of my scribble, right? We did come down, we bounced off into some man zone, we went back up to the top of the trend line, we rejected from there. So it played out really nicely, but then instead of breaking down from this zone, we've sort of bounced, double bottomed, bounced again. So no worries at all. I wasn't in any trades, so you can't lose money when you're not trading. But it's again, like I've said this before, but I'm a big fan of drawing scribbles on charts, right? I find it a really good way to practice your trading, almost like paper trading, without having to actually put risk to reward on and all that. But it's just a really easy way to practice charting in the market and seeing, did the market do what I expected it to do, did it not? After all, you really do start to just get a feel for how the market or certain coins work. Bitcoin just seems to work in a way that makes sense to me. Not every time, obviously. We're looking at a good example now. It didn't play out exactly how I thought, but it tends to just move in a way that makes a lot of sense to me. And I think a big part of that is I've spent so much time practicing on Bitcoin that subconsciously, there's probably a whole lot of information that I couldn't even consciously expand on. But, my subconscious is constantly working with that information. And so it sort of gives you some idea of what Bitcoin might do, even if you can't consciously articulate that. So, as you can see, Scribble was pretty good. Only went sort of halfway, but no trades for me from last week. What we'll do, we'll head to this week. I mean, it's going to look exactly the same, but I'll change the chart a little bit. And I'll show you guys what I'm thinking for the week. Righto, so here we are. We are looking at the weekly candles, and as you'll see, nothing's really changed from last week. Still looking at the exact same zones, still looking at the exact same trend line. Only thing that's changed is the weekly candle, right? We got a new weekly candle compared to last week. One thing to note is last week I spoke about how we'd had a bearish engulfing followed by a doji, and we'd potentially see a Morningstar form if we had a bullish engulfing form here. But I did say, you can't call that until it's confirmed, until it plays out, and we actually see that bullish engulfing close. Obviously, closes bearish engulfing. So, just a reminder, you don't want to be calling patterns before they happen. I actually had a strategy based on longing a Morningstar when the doji formed, predicting the bullish engulfing. Traded it for like 2 months, and then I went and back tested it, and I sucked at picking when that actually formed. So you really want to wait for confirmation on patterns like that. Otherwise, it's pretty easy to get things wrong. So just a little lesson for you guys on the daily though. Again, not a whole lot to report. I have added a supply zone about the 50k region. Just, it wasn't much of a pivot, but we did sort of come down, come back in, pivot out, retest it, come back down. So not a huge pivot point, but certainly I can see that as a valid daily supply. Wouldn't surprise me to see it broken, right? I've spoken for a few weeks about how it wouldn't surprise me to see us come back up to this sort of 57k region. Potentially a lot of selling pressure around there, and just sort of a logical spot for a lower high to form. Markets always move in waves, so something like that would make a lot of sense to me, but can't call that until it happens, like that Morningstar. So at the moment, not seeing a whole lot on the daily. Bit, wouldn't say boring, right? Market's never boring. There's always a lot going on, but for me on the daily, nothing really to report. The 4 hours where things get interesting. So I want to start off with a just a little lesson for you guys, I suppose. So if you were looking at the charts, let's say back in here, you would potentially have seen a descending triangle, right? Which is a more bearish pattern than bullish. It's got a higher probability of breaking to the downside, especially after a big move down to form it, to enter it. That is sort of a high probability downside move. So it's it's pretty plausible that you would have been drawing your trend line horizontally like this, because it held its support here twice, and even here, right, that line's been pretty well respected. But up until there, well, that's the current candle. At the same time, you could easily have seen that as more of a descending wedge, which is not necessarily a bullish pattern, but it has a higher chance of breaking to the upside. So this is why I often speak about trend lines being subjective, right? Two people could have seen the exact same chart, drawn their trend lines just very slightly differently, but it actually changed the entire meaning of the probabilities, right? This one's a high probability of breaking to the upside, the other's a higher probability of breaking to the downside. So personally, now I lean towards the descending wedge, partly because it's broken out to the upside, so that's always a good way to trade, hindsight trading, 2020, always. But even more than that, I just like to draw off the line chart. And so, using these closes, in fact, I'd probably tidy it up a little bit like that. No, probably that's the go. So I lean towards the descending wedge. I might have been saying ascending before, I can't remember, but descending wedge, high probability of breaking to the upside. I lean towards seeing it that way. That said, I'm still not bullish on Bitcoin, certainly. On the 4 hour, definitely can see a move up to there potentially, but then there's just a lot of resistance overhead, right? If we do get up to this region, we've got a 4 hour supply zone, a daily supply zone, a daily EQ level, which is this one here, this trend line coming in, we've got another 4 hour supply zone up there. So I could potentially see a lot of selling pressure stepping in that, what are we looking at, sort of 51 to 50k region. Now, would I take a short from there? So that's what I see as sort of the most likely price action over the next week, something like that. I'm not going to be taking shorts from here, even though it's a really good risk-reward trade. I think it's about a 4 to 1. Let me just move that. And even if I just targeted here, yeah, you go, 3.6. Targeting down here, you got a massive 8.3. But one thing to note, and this is something that I've learnt from mentors of mine, is Christmas is often not a great period to trade, especially coming from the Forex market, but potentially you're going to see it in crypto too, especially with Bitcoin, The reason for that is institutional traders essentially work 9 to 5s like most people. They might be based in the UK or the States, so their 9 to 5 hours might differ a little bit, but a lot of them work essentially a regular job. And so a lot of them do have holidays over the Christmas period, so a lot of the institutional liquidity tends to dry up over Christmas. I'm a person who tries to trade with the institutions, right? I always think of myself like that little remora fish that swims along under a great white or something, eats its scraps, because that's essentially what I do. I just try and get on board when they're in trades, ride the market with them, get what I can from it. So if the institutions aren't trading, it's probably not a great time for me to trade because the market might not behave how I expect it to, how I'm used to it behaving. And aside from, just the pure money-making stats of it, it's Christmas. I'm kind of looking forward to just having some time off the charts. I am in one trade currently. I'll actually show you guys that. I tend to not show alt trades or talk about them, but it's not on this chart, but I've taken a long on LRC USDT. Really long story short, just a bit of a descending wedge into a 4 hour level. So there's more to it than that, but that's sort of the basics. I'm long from about there somewhere. But apart from that, I won't be entering any other trades this week, most likely. I might do some scalping, I'm not sure. But for the most part, I won't be taking this Bitcoin short, certainly. But I always like to, just have a plan, not a plan, have an idea of what I think the market might do. Like I said earlier, just allows me to sort of constantly be practicing, constantly be testing myself in the market. That's pretty much it from me for the week. So, Merry Christmas, guys. If you're not Christian, happy holidays, whatever it is. But I hope you guys all have some time off. Hope you really enjoy yourselves. I think most of my followers are based in Australia, so hopefully we're going to get some really, really nice weather. If you're in the Northern Hemisphere, hopefully you get a white Christmas if that's what you want. I'd love to experience a white Christmas. You guys might hate it. You might be sick of the snow. But yeah, I really hope you guys all have a great sort of Christmas, New Year's period. I will most likely do a video before New Year's on the 28th, but just in case I don't, hopefully you're all gearing up for a really big 2022, whatever that means for you. The last 2 years have definitely seen their challenges. Some people have thrived, some people have struggled. Whichever you've done, there's nothing wrong with it. I struggled last year, I had a really good year this year. So, it's been a tough time, and some people, have really struggled with that. And there's nothing wrong with that at all. If that's you, it's cool. It happens, We all do go through those times, but it's always nice to have something positive to look forward to in the future. And for me, I've got a really good feeling about 2022. So hopefully you guys can have a similar feeling. And Enjoy your holiday period. I'll talk to you very soon.